A computer repair tech bought a used hard drive from a storage auction because he liked looking through old, forgotten files before wiping them. But instead of old photos or music, he found more than 200 short videos, each one showing a remote location, always completely empty except for a single shoe placed right in the frame. He didn't think much of it at first, until he realized those shoes matched the last known descriptions of real missing people. Ryan was 27 years old and lived in rural Utah. He had a strange but innocent hobby. Whenever he collected old computers or spare parts, he liked to explore whatever files were left behind before he erased them. He wasn't looking for secrets, and he wasn't trying to snoop. He just liked seeing pieces of people's digital history. Sometimes he found old vacation footage, music recordings, or years-old family photos. He called it digital urban exploration. In March of 2019, he bought a dusty box of electronics from a storage unit auction. Inside that box was a battered old laptop that didn't turn on, and a heavy, older external drive with no markings. When he plugged the drive in, it contained only a single folder with a name that instantly gave him a strange feeling. The folder was labeled The Path. Inside it were hundreds of short video clips, all only a few seconds long. The first video looked ordinary at first. It showed a long stretch of country road cutting through empty farmland. The camera kept completely still the entire time. But near the ditch at the edge of the frame, Ryan noticed a white sneaker lying by itself, placed in a way that almost looked intentional. The next clip was filmed in a dried riverbed somewhere in the desert. Nothing moved, nothing happened, and the video ended after a few seconds. But there, resting on the cracked earth, was a tiny pink sandal. A third clip showed an abandoned playground behind an old church. Rusted metal swings hung crookedly, and weeds had overtaken the slide. At the very bottom of that slide was a man's single black dress shoe. By the time he reached the fifth clip, Ryan felt a cold, prickling sensation building in his chest. Every video showed a remote location, filmed in perfect stillness, and every single one included a single shoe, always placed where it couldn't be missed. One shoe, never a pair, always arranged like someone wanted it to be found. As Ryan moved through the videos, the dates on the files began to bother him more than anything else. The earliest recordings were from 5 years earlier, back in 2014, then 2015, then 2016, and so on. The most recent clips were recorded just a few weeks before the storage auction. Whoever made these videos had been traveling through remote areas of the West for years, filming these places and leaving a single shoe behind each time. At first, it felt like some strange art project, but the more he watched, the more deliberate it all felt. The shoes were centered, clean, and placed carefully. Nothing about them looked accidental, and then everything changed. One of the videos showed a concrete drainage ditch with a red Converse-style shoe resting near the waterline. Something about it nagged at him. On a whim, he searched online for missing people in the region who might have worn something like that. He didn't expect to find anything, but he did. A 12-year-old girl had vanished in 2016. The last confirmed sighting described her wearing red Converse shoes. The clip had been filmed around the same time she disappeared. Ryan froze. He checked another video, this one showing a forest trail with a brown work boot near the edge. A missing hunter's case from that same year described those exact boots. Another clip showed a black ballet flat placed neatly on an abandoned rail line. A missing woman's vehicle had been found near that location, and witnesses said she wore black flats. As Ryan kept searching, the coincidences piled up until there was no room left for doubt. These weren't props. These weren't artistic choices. These were the shoes of real people who had gone missing, and the videos were filmed at the places they vanished. Ryan dug deeper. Some of the earliest videos still contained faint location traces hidden in their thumbnail data. He wrote them down and entered them into a map. The coordinates didn't point to any cities or tourist spots. They traced a route across Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, northern Utah, and parts of Nevada, an irregular but consistent travel path someone had followed for years. It suddenly felt like the floor dropped out from beneath him. He wasn't looking at old crime scenes. He was looking at the work of someone who had spent years visiting and recording these locations. Shortly after, real people disappeared there. And then came the video that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand straight up. When Ryan finished mapping the locations, he felt sick. The more points he plotted, the clearer the path became. Whoever filmed these locations had spent years moving between isolated places where people vanished under strange circumstances. It didn't feel like coincidence anymore. It felt like a pattern someone was proud of. As he backed out of the map program, something caught his eye inside the folder. A new file had appeared at the bottom of the list. It hadn't been there earlier. It wasn't a video. It was a text document. The name of the file was simply, "Open Me." He froze. He hadn't clicked anything that could have created a new file. The drive wasn't connected to the internet. Nothing about this made sense. After several minutes of staring at it, curiosity won out. He opened the document. Inside was only one line. "Follow the path below." Under it was a long string of characters that looked like nonsense, a jumble of letters, numbers, and symbols. But Ryan recognized the structure immediately. It wasn't a regular web address. It was a dark web onion link. He stared at it for a long time, debating whether to even touch it. He knew enough about the dark web to understand the risks: malware, tracking scripts, hidden servers. But this link felt different. It felt like a breadcrumb, like someone was leading him to the next step. A part of him hoped it would help explain the videos. Another part feared it would only confirm the worst against every instinct he had. He copied the link into his dark web browser. The page that loaded wasn't what he expected. There was no marketplace, no chat room, no graphic content. Just a simple black screen with a single clickable word in white text: "Watch." When Ryan clicked the word, the page instantly switched to a live video feed. There was no title, no comments, no options, just a view from a camera that seemed to be sitting on a dashboard, pointed toward an empty stretch of rural highway at night. The image quality was decent, and the camera never moved. The car's engine wasn't running, and there was no sound at all. For nearly 10 seconds, nothing happened, and then he saw it. At the edge of the headlights, barely visible against the gravel, was a single bright blue shoe. The same one he had seen frozen in the snow in one of the clips. But this wasn't a recorded video. It wasn't archived. It was a live stream. Ryan felt the bottom drop out of his stomach. Someone was out there right now, parked in some remote stretch of nowhere, placing the same shoes he'd seen in the recordings and streaming it directly to the dark web. As he watched, the camera slowly tilted, almost imperceptibly, toward the passenger seat. A figure sat there in total darkness, only the faintest shape visible. The person didn't move, didn't shift, didn't even breathe loud enough to hear. But after a long, tense moment, the figure raised one hand and placed something on the dashboard. It was a folded piece of paper. The hand slid away. The paper unfolded from the air vents as if pushed by intention alone. On the paper was a word written in thick, uneven marker: "Hello." Before Ryan could react, the stream instantly cut to black. Then the page closed itself, and the dark web browser shut down. Ryan sat frozen. His hands felt numb and his pulse hammered in his ears. He closed every window, unplugged the drive, and shut off the computer. He didn't sleep that night. Every small noise in the house felt amplified: creaks in the walls, the fridge humming, the occasional car passing outside. He kept replaying the live stream in his head. At sunrise, he walked into the local police station and handed everything over: the drive, his notes, the coordinates he'd mapped, even the printed onion link. The officers took it all, but didn't seem particularly urgent about it. They said they'd review the material and contact him. They never did. Weeks passed. Ryan moved across state lines, hoping distance would help him breathe again. He tried to convince himself it was over. Maybe the videos were staged. Maybe the live stream was fake. Maybe the figure in the car wasn't real. But 2 months later, he received an email from an address he didn't recognize. There was no text, no subject line, just a single video attachment. It was 8 seconds long. The clip was dark and grainy, filmed from the shadowed corner of a parking lot. In the middle of the pavement sat a solitary men's sneaker, the exact style Ryan wore every day. Next to it was a folded piece of paper, weighed down by a small rock so it wouldn't blow away. He zoomed in until the image distorted. On the paper was one word: "Welcome," and beneath it a new link. Another dark web address titled, "The Next Step on the Path." Our next story is about a hunter whose GoPro footage was leaked onto the dark web after he went missing. What he captured deep in the woods is still one of the most disturbing clips anyone has ever tried to explain. In October of 2018, a 29-year-old hunter named Evan Miller went into the Mogollon Rim Forest in northern Arizona. He'd been hunting that area since he was a teenager and knew the trails better than most of the locals. He always carried a GoPro strapped to his chest whenever he went out. It wasn't for social media or anything like that. He used it in case he fell, got hurt, or needed to retrace his steps later. Evan never returned home that night. Search teams found his truck at the trailhead and some of his gear near a creek, but no signs of a struggle and no signs of where he went. A week later, a short video labeled "Rim Footage" quietly appeared on a dark web forum known for circulating unexplained clips. Authorities never confirmed it was real, but Evan's family recognized his voice in the audio. The footage starts exactly how you'd expect. Evan walking through dense pine, breathing steady, the forest floor crunching under his boots. The sun is low, and everything has that bluish haze the woods get right before dusk. At about 2 minutes in, he stops abruptly. The camera shifts slightly as he steps around a tree, and that's when you see her, a girl, maybe early 20s, long black hair, barefoot, standing completely motionless in the center of a clearing. She's facing away from him, no backpack, no clothes, except for a thin white nightgown that's darkened at the bottom from dirt. Evan calls out, asking if she's okay. His voice cracks a little. She doesn't turn around, doesn't even flinch. The only movement in the entire shot is her hair swaying gently in the breeze. Evan takes another cautious step forward, and that's when she moves. The girl slowly tilts her head, not turning her body, just the head, until her chin touches her collarbone, like her neck bends farther than it should, and she stays like that, frozen, listening. Evan is terrified but confused. His first thought is maybe she's lost and needs help, or maybe she's on drugs. Either way, out of precaution, he takes one step back, just one. And the instant his boot touches a branch, the girl drops straight down into a crouch so fast the camera barely catches it. Both her hands slap the ground, her knees bend at an unnatural angle, her bare feet twist sideways in the dirt. She's not kneeling, she's not sitting, she's perched, like a spider. Evan gasps, but he doesn't run. He can't. The girl turns her head just enough for the camera to catch her profile. Wide eyes, mouth slightly open, her breathing suddenly loud and fast. Then in one motion, she lunges forward onto all fours. The sound she makes isn't a scream. It's a wet, sharp inhale, like a person gasping after being underwater too long. She crawls toward him with unnerving speed, her limbs bending in odd angles, her feet kicking up dirt as she scuttles across the clearing. Evan finally turns and bolts. The camera bounces violently as he sprints through branches and brush, swearing, gasping, stumbling. Behind him, you can hear her, those quick, irregular footfalls of something running on hands and feet, gaining ground faster than she should have been able to. And then the audio cuts, just ends, mid-breath. The last second of the file shows a single blurred frame, like the camera was smacked or ripped off his chest. In that frame, the girl is visible between the trees, her hands pressed to the ground, her back arched, her long hair hanging straight down, head twisted toward the camera, eyes wide, mouth open in a way that doesn't look human. The frame flickers for half a second, and then the video ends forever. Evan Miller was never found. The only proof he was even out there is that one short clip, and the girl in the clearing, the barefoot woman running through the woods, has never been identified.